Kia ora te whānau, I'm Hannah and this is Dan, and our family goes to the Lower Hutt Church community. For today's devotion we are looking at the theme of Jesus, the coming Prince of Peace. And for today's devotion, the particular verse it comes from is Psalms 29.
Yeah, now I've got the old school hard copy version here. The phone is obviously there doing the recording, so I had to dig this out. But like Hannah said, this comes from Psalm 29, which is a series of verses that talks about God as great and sovereign, and then it finishes with a promise of peace to God's people. So I'm in Psalm 29 and I'm going to read verses 10 and 11. The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord is enthroned as King forever. The Lord gives strength to his people. The Lord blesses his people with peace. And so you have this idea that God is sovereign over everything, and then that he promises peace to his people. And this is particularly on point at this time of year, as we come into Christmas, we celebrate Christmas, and we remember that this is when God sent Jesus to earth. And it's on point because Jesus is the Prince of Peace, and he is the way that God fulfilled this promise. And as Hannah and I were reflecting on this, we actually were reminded of another picture in the Bible. It's in the New Testament, and you see it in Hebrews chapter 6 verse 19, and it says, "We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure." And that doesn't say Jesus necessarily, but when you ask yourself, what is this hope? It's the hope of the gospel. It's the hope that Jesus came and he died, and somehow by dying he put us right with God. He put us back into a right relationship with God. And what he did for us gives us hope. It's a hope for today. It's a hope that God is there and that he's going to go through life with us, and he's going to journey through the ups and downs of life. But it's also a hope for the future and for eternity, because we know that God is setting up a place for us for all eternity. And so when you combine that idea of the anchor with this verse in Psalms, you get this really cool flow. God is great, God is sovereign. God promises us peace. He sent his son Jesus Christ to make us right with him. And because of what Jesus did, we have a hope for today and a hope for forever. And that hope is like an anchor. So no matter what we go through, we can have peace in our life. And that's really good news, because life is hard. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how well off you are or what's going on. Life is hard. You're going to go through struggles. And it's so good to have the peace of knowing that Jesus is there and that God is going to go through it with you. This is something Hannah and I have actually found recently, and so Hannah's just going to give a quick story from our life.
A recent example of this was the birth of Ari, our third son. Just giving birth is one of the hardest experiences I've been through in life, and I just remember a distinct moment in the car where we're on our way to the hospital, and I prayed for strength, and as I prayed, I felt peace and not panic, and I felt upheld and knew that God was with me, and just felt peace. And we made it to the hospital, and Ari was born safely.
Praise the Lord. And so actually that's really our reflection for today. As we go into Christmas, remember that Jesus is the Prince of Peace.